sensible world, I would now congratulate the class of 1995 and sit down without further notice. I am sure the class of 1995 wishes I would do so. Unfortunately, for the class of 1995, we do not live in a sensible world. We live in a world far more slavish in its obedience to ancient custom than we'd like to admit. An ancient commencement day custom demands that somebody stand up here and harangue the poor graduates until they beg for mercy. The ancient rule has been, make them suffer. I remember the agony of my own graduation at the Johns Hopkins University. They'd imported some heat from the Sahara Desert, and the commencement orator spoke for 2.5 days. That was in 1947. Luckily, the forces of mercy have made big gains since then. The authorities of Connecticut College have suggested that for me to speak longer than 20 minutes would be regarded as a cruel and inhumane punishment. And if I go longer than 30 minutes, several strong men will mount this platform and forcibly remove me. But if I can finish in 15 minutes, they will let me stay for lunch. All right, let's plunge right ahead into the dull part. That's the part where the commencement speaker tells the graduates to go forth into the world, then tells them what to do when they get out there. This is a ridiculous waste of time. The graduates never take the advice, as I have learned from long experience. The best advice I can give to anybody about going out into the world is this: don't do it. I have been out there. It is a mess. Like what most cliche speeches often mention, graduation is the end of another chapter in a person's life. When a person receives their diploma, he has a new purpose in life. A new door opens new opportunities. On May 27, 1995, Pulitzer Prize Award winner Russell Baker spoke to the graduating class of 1995 at Connecticut College of the key concepts he thinks that they should bring with them to the future. So ladies and gentlemen, I now present to you 10 ways to avoid mucking up the world any worse than it already is. I've been giving graduates this advice since 1967. That was 28 years ago. Thanks to the genius of my generation, I told them it was a pretty good world out there. They went forth into it, they would mess it up. So I urged them not to go. They didn't listen, and look what happened. Within a year, Robert Kennedy and John Lennon were killed. Then Nixon took us to Watergate, draft rights, defeat in Vietnam, Ronald Reagan and his trillion-dollar deficit. So I will not waste my breath today pleading with you not to go forth. Instead, I limit myself to a simple plea. When you get out there in the world, try not to make it any worse than it already is. I thought it might help to give you a list of 100 most important things to avoid making the world any worse. Since I'm shooting for 15 minutes, however, you will not have time for all 100. You will have to make do with 10. Here's my list. 10 things to avoid making the world any worse than it already is. 1. Bend down and smell a flower once in a while. 2. Don't go around in clothes that talk. There's already too much talk in the world. There's so many talking people, there's hardly anybody left to listen. With telephones and television and radio, we've got talking furniture. With bumper stickers, we've got talking cars. Talking clothes just add to the uproar. If you simply cannot resist being an incompetent klutz, don't boast about it by wearing a t-shirt that says, underachiever and proud of it. Being dumb is not the worst thing in the world, but letting your clothes shout it out loud embarrasses your parents. Point 3 follows from point 2. Listen once in a while. On a hot summer day in the country, you can hear the corn growing, or the crack of a tin roof buckling under the power of the sun. In a real old-fashioned parlor silence, you can hear the dust settling on the velveteen settee, or the voice of somebody now gone whom you love. Point 4. Sleep in the nude. In an age where you don't even get dressed up to go to the theater anymore, it's silly getting dressed up to go to bed. What's more, now that you can no longer smoke, drink gin, or eat eggs or bacon without somebody trying to make you feel ashamed of yourself, sleeping in the nude is one deliciously sinful pleasure you can commit without being caught by the Puritan police squads that patrol the nation. Point 5. Turn off the TV once or twice a month and pick up a book. It might even wake up your mind, but if it puts you to sleep, you're still a winner. 6. Don't take your gun to town. The surest way to get shot is not to drop by the nearest convenience store for a bottle of milk at midnight, but to leave a loaded pistol in your own house. What about my constitutional rights, you say? I would simply point out that you don't have to exercise a constitutional right just because you have it. You have the constitutional right to run for president, but most people have too much sense to insist on exercising it. Point 7. Learn to fear the automobile. It is not the $1 trillion deficit that will finally destroy America. It is the automobile. Congressional studies of future highway needs are terrifying. Imagine an entire country filled with asphalt. Point 8. Have some children. They will teach you humility. They will add texture to your life. When you grow old and old age overtakes you, as it inevitably will, I'm sorry to say, having a few children will provide you with people who will feel guilty for being ungrateful for what you've done for them. Point 9. Get married. I know you don't want to hear this, but getting married will provide you with a lot more satisfaction in the long run than your BMW. And finally, point 10, smile. You're one of the luckiest people in the world. You're living in America. I feel obliged to give you this banal advice because although I've lived through the Great Depression, half a century of Cold War, and terrible wars in Korea and Vietnam, I've never seen a time when there were so many Americans so angry or so mean-spirited or so sour about their country as there are today. Anger has become the national habit. Rudeness has become an acceptable way of announcing that you are sick and tired of it all and are not going to take it anymore. America is angry at Washington, angry at the press, angry at immigrants, angry at television, angry at traffic, angry at those who are well off and angry at those who are poor, angry at blacks and angry at whites. The old are angry at the young angry at the old. The question is why? Why has anger become the common response to the inevitable ups and downs of nation life? The question is baffling because there's so little for Americans to be mad about nowadays. We are the Earth's undisputed superpower. For the first time in 60 years, we live in something very much like real peace. We are the planet's wealthiest nation, though obviously our vast nation is not evenly distributed. There's still people who remember when $35 a week was a living wage for a whole family. Racial segregation was highly used in large parts of the country, and universal military service was the law of the land. So what explains the fearing dyspepsia? I suspect it's the famous American ignorance of history. Those who do not remember even the most recent past are easily gulled by sick operators who prosper by exploiting the ignorant. Among these rascals are politicians. Politicians flourish by sowing discontent. Press, television, and radio also have a big financial stake in keeping the country boiling mad. Good News, as you know, does not sell papers or keep millions glued to radios and television screens. So when you get out there in the world, ladies and gentlemen, there you will find yourself surrounded by mad, stomping red in the face politicians, radio yakmeisters, and yes, newspaper columnists telling you you never had it so bad. And when they come at you with that, ladies and gentlemen, give them a wink and a smile and a good view of your departing back. And as you walk away, bend down and smell a flower. It seems I have gone past my 15-minute limit and will have to buy my own lunch. That's life, ladies and gentlemen, no free lunch.
You're at 8:35?